Basically what the social investment policy would be. I mean, not what it would be, but what do you mean by that?
So anything that would be considered like tobacco stock, for example,
You'd name the stocks.
you would name the stocks, you would go through and say if it's anything unethical, you completely divest regardless of consequence. So the, as is over there, don't change anything. A complete social investment policy, and then somewhere in the middle, only divest in tobacco stock and maintain the status quo otherwise.
Like just trying to make room for everyone.
Oh.
Just trying not to be short. Yeah, trying to
Really
really
get
extra her.
I didn't know there was that. I'm sorry.
Are you guys in the middle? Yeah. All right.
Right smack in between the middle of the farm.
I'm trying to get furthest away from one of them. Still be a part of it.
See, I think what's interesting about doing an exercise like this is it really shows you exactly where people are instead of just popcorning out. Because also effective. But I'm curious, folks in the middle of the room, you two, if you could talk about kind of why you felt in the middle versus far over there, and then we'll have this group do the same as well. So you want to be thinking about that.
Why does it feel like enacting a social investment policy would be a big change for them? And I feel like the board of directors would need more time and information to make a decision. So maybe the case is enough specifically for the tobacco stock to divest in the tobacco stock, but not take the complete leap of the social investment policy, but maybe eventually get to that point.
Okay. But for now,
Yeah.
just do that.
Yeah.
Start with that. Sam?
Yeah, I feel much
Sure.
that way, and I think, it's kind of opening an enormous can of worms, and if you don't know where it's really going to take you, I think it's dangerous territory. So I'd say address the issue you've identified, but watch out. So I'll stay right here.
I was thinking, and I don't know if this fits with the policy, that what the people would need to do is start making a list of criteria that make something socially responsible. Identify what is a socially responsible investment.
Specific stocks that they're already investing in.
Yeah,
like go through those.
what equates, not naming the stocks, but what are, yeah. And whether that means doing the policy now or not, I don't know, but that would be the first step in my mind.
So you're establishing criteria for which everything thereafter will be judged?
I think so.
You'd have to,
Yeah.
I think if you don't have a policy, you're gonna get here again with a different stock. It's gonna keep coming back here unless you have some policy to refer to. So.
Other thoughts? So why'd you go so far left besides to me?
I really just went far left to make room.
Back over by you. And I always follow Tina.
Group thing.
Yeah.
I feel strong if they were gonna take that position, go all the way, then take it, live it, breathe it, do it. If they have a responsibility, if they have it's a 12-year tenure, they've got a lot of money, they can afford to make that investment.
Why be wishy-washy?
Yep.
Jump. That's how I live my life.
All in.
Yeah, I mean, what's the point if you make decisions too
Well,
well?
don't you worry a little bit that the more you start defining that, and the more criteria you start setting, you start shooting yourself in the foot, because it always seems that you cannot think of everything, and so do you end up limiting yourself in some way by trying to encompass something, but it's bigger than you really can encompass.
I think there's a
That
risk
wasn't
you
very
run.
eloquent, by the
No,
way.
I think that you're right. There's a risk that you run, but you have to start somewhere, and you have to reach for that goal, and you have to keep moving it.
Yeah.
What does incremental look like? You're not gonna turn the Titanic on a dime, right?
And policies can change as often as you need them
Yeah.
to. So if they come into a big snafu, they've changed it, the next year they could reevaluate and change again.
Make a plan, work the plan, and change it as you go.
Right, so what if it's, the November board meeting, and this is presented to them, and it's, we either pull all of our money from tobacco stock, we like completely move to a social investment like what if it's, they don't have enough time and information to come up with the plan, you know what I mean? Like I feel like you were saying, there's so many factors involved in what is being socially responsible.
Well, I think you just move those you just take what you would invest in and plot it into what you already know.
No,
You're-
right,
you know,
right.
But as a first step, I think you,
Yeah.
I think you
You have to chunk it up.
Yeah.
Or do you look at other companies that have done this,
Yeah.
that took that leap?
Yeah.
It wouldn't necessarily have to be done like in an immediate month.
Right.
And the foundation, remember, it was talked about in the case study, the whatever document, and also on the mission that we found, the values. Foundation is there to benefit the community.
Right.
You know, we were looking at it in part as a company, you know, where that fiscal return is top priority. This is for the community. You know? So.
If folks wanna go back to, we
Oh,
can keep
can I
discussing.
ask-
Sure,
sorry,
no,
one more
please.
question. How about how it
Could've gone that
affects,
way.
the Council of Foundations? So you've got
Right.
people scampering along behind trying to keep up with your constantly changing policy.
And that's.
That's another piece I was thinking about.
And is it gonna cut some kind of precedent?
It's interesting, as everything that you guys said, we discussed as well in our group, and we even had folks on the other side of it. We weren't completely on this side, which was interesting because as we went along, we ended up coming to one decision, which was an active social investment policy, and through that, which is what you guys said, to hire a consultant to assess the impact and help guide the social investment policy instead of just saying, yep, divest, let's go. I mean, there needs to be a plan. It needs to be well thought out. It will likely not happen in a month because that's working in the companies we all work in. That's not realistic, but it needs to be well thought out. And we also decided too that, as some folks mentioned earlier, even if the foundation did not maintain solvency, if it did end up meaning eventually going under, we still felt that staying true to the mission was the most important piece. Some of the reasons for this that brought us to this conclusion was first to be true to the mission and the mission integrity. And also initially we thought that awareness of the risk of smoking would decrease the actual use, funds would shift, and then through the educational grants that we made to companies and priorities, but as we started thinking about it more, we realized that internationally, smoking will really never disappear. Different folks have different education around that. Culture is different everywhere, and even though we invest internationally, the programs are within the United States, and so that just didn't seem like a completely realistic reason to not completely socially move to a social investment policy. So those were our reasons, kind of the don't feed a pig bacon thing. This doesn't seem very ethical. So. I also thought I'd mention, as we said earlier, the group was not in full agreement. Some were on one end, some were on the other, and it really came together, I think, quite nicely that toward the end, we all thought about it for a week, met a week later, and said, I think this is where we're at.
Did any of you actually take a oath of status quo?
There was some backroom dealing going on. And we came together.
Initially, yeah, we did. That was not question. Well, it was funny because we got to the end of our first meeting and we had some very strong opinions on both sides, and we're all kind of doing the stare down across the room at each other, not in a mean way, but just,
I thought it was
no. And we really thought, we had class then, I think, right after that, and you had said, okay, well, we don't have to agree, we can state that we have differing opinions. We're like, oh, well, thank goodness, because we're just not going to agree. Then we thought about it a week and really went through the CAT scan again and really discussed everything and said, no, I think this is the way it needs to be, and came up with this. For a lot of different reasons and a way of coming about that too.